From the Soapbox is the official podcast for the American Animal Hospital Association's digital newsroom, Trends. Here, we take inspiration from the familiar soap notes, but instead of looking at the condition of a patient, we're diagnosing and discussing the state of the veterinary industry. We'll chat about the challenges, trends, and innovations shaping the veterinary world with voices from across the community. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Singler. Thanks for listening. Welcome to another episode of From the Soapbox. My guest today is AAHA's own Judy Rose Lanier. Judy Rose has worked in the veterinary industry in varying roles for more than 30 years, holding every position from veterinary assistant to practice manager to director of credentialing for the Texas Veterinary Medical Association. She now works as AAHA's Learning Programs Manager. If you've watched any of the AAHA webinars recently, you've seen her running the show, introducing the speakers and fielding questions. She is also integral to the success of other AAHA programs like the Veterinary Management Institute and Beyond Medicine workshops. Apart from that, she's the leader of AAHA's DEIB committee, and that's the reason we've invited her to the podcast today. That and because she's just an amazing person to talk to. So we're going to talk about DEIB, what it is, and what that can look like in the veterinary industry, whether it's within your team, at veterinary conferences, or in your client interactions. We're not going to talk about politics per se, so don't worry about that, but we are going to talk about why DEIB matters. I hope you'll join us in this important conversation. Without further ado, getting her time to talk from the soapbox, Judy Rose Lanier. Judy Rose, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so excited to get to talk to you, and I'm so excited that you're one of the first guests on this podcast, and I'm really excited to kind of dive into it with you.
I feel the same way, Dr. Singler. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be a part of our first podcast together.
So we're going to be talking about DEIB today and sort of what it means to us, what it means to others, how we've experienced it, how it can be helpful, and then, kind of talk about what it's meant here at AAHA and how it can be helpful kind of like out in clinical practice. But just to kind of start out, I wanted to really spell out what each of those letters is, because we kind of hear DEI or DEIB thrown around a lot, and it's kind of easy to skip over the significance of each of those parts. So just to kind of set the stage for our discussion, I looked up some definitions. So these are all from either Merriam or Cambridge dictionaries. So for diversity, and then you can let me know what you think of these or if there's anything you would add to them. So diversity, the condition of having or being composed of different elements. Equity is fairness or justice in the way people are treated. Inclusion is the act or practice of including and accommodating people who have historically been excluded. And then belonging, this is the one that came from Cambridge Dictionary, because it was hard to find a lot of definitions of belonging had to do with like, oh, here are your belongings, here's your coat, here's your jacket. But like belonging obviously has a very different meaning in this regard, which is a feeling of being happy or comfortable as part of a particular group and having a good relationship with the other members of the group because they welcome you and accept you. I think a lot of times people just assume that that has to do with hiring, specifically hiring, and that it's specific to hiring more individuals of different races, ethnicities, bringing in more women, bringing in more individuals with disabilities who weren't usually or historically sort of welcomed in certain situations. But I think we can both agree DEIB is a lot more than that. What do you think?
100%. I couldn't have said it better. DEIB is this broad scope that we need to start realizing that it goes way beyond like different cultures, ethnicities. DEIB also includes how we make people feel, how people are currently feeling. Also how we treat each other. Let's start with diversity. So, a diverse team will bring a wider range of perspectives and ideas. And so, this can lead to more creative problem solving and better decision making. Also, when people feel included and valued, they are going to be more engaged and productive. And this can lead to boosting morale and then your overall team retention. So when we talk about equity, I think this is one of those words that people sometimes get confused with like equality versus, equity. So I like to say that equity ensures that everyone has access to the tools and opportunities that they need to succeed. And this helps unlock talent that might otherwise go untapped. And then my favorite is belonging. I feel like this is the secret sauce. When a team member feels like they truly belong, they are more confident, collaborative, and motivated to do their best. So, fostering DEIB can also improve your client relations. Our clients come from all different walks of life, and a team that reflects and respects that diversity can connect more authentically with the community.
I love that. A team that reflects and respects. That is so powerful. I know sometimes it's easy to kind of put ourselves in a box and think like, okay, that's not me because I'm not a racial minority or I don't have a disability or, I speak English as my first language. So, DEIB is for other people. But that's not really true. I mean, I think there are so many different ways that we can all benefit from DEIB. I remember you and I had a conversation several months ago when you were working on planning AHA and I want to learn. We're going to talk more about sort of what you do at AHA in the future. But you and I had a conversation about AHA and you came to me and you asked me how AHA could be more welcoming to parents who are veterinary professionals, and we talked about the idea of having the nursing and pumping room at the conference so that individuals who were there, who needed to pump or who had their baby with them, who needed to breastfeed, could do it right there. So they didn't have to completely disrupt their day or maybe decide not to come at all. Um, so all of those things I would classify under DEIB as well. Would you?
100%. That I always say that I'm on this DEIB journey that I've been on for quite a while, and I have been learning that, sometimes we tend to, like, live in this box and we don't think outside the box sometimes, as someone who I do not have children, I've never been a nursing mother, so it's something that just never kind of crossed my mind, and then I got to thinking by meeting you, and your book that you wrote about nursing mothers, I was like, "Oh, I wonder what could we do at AHACon to make it more, um, a better experience for our nursing mothers, so they would feel comfortable and it would feel like a safe space that, oh, it's okay if I go pump or if I bring my child, it's okay that, they're there, those types of things. So that was really eye-opening and it was wonderful to to have the experience to talk with you about that. I think one of the things, that it's taken me a bit to get used to is to build that confidence to ask. I was able to reach out and ask you, say, "Hey, can you tell me a little bit about this and what could I do to help make this better?" And I think that's something too is that we have, you hear this term getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, it's really true. You have to just kind of like rip off that band-aid and say, I'm gonna ask someone. And you could have easily just said, hey, go do some research, figure it out yourself, which would have been fine. I would have been like, hey, what resources do you have for me? And so you have to be prepared, for that kind of response as well, because you may have just been like, I'm tired of talking about this, or whatever.
Well,
Uh,
but I think, like, you bring up a couple really good points. I mean, I first of all, like, you have to have a lot of humility to say, "I don't know what this other person may be experiencing. I don't know what they might need. So let me go and ask them, and I can learn from them." Because I could just assume that I'm fine, I have everything I need, everybody else must be in the same boat. or I can't imagine there being something else that someone would need. Therefore, there's no reason to do anything. There's no reason to change course. There's no reason to make any adjustments. Just kind of assume that whatever my experience is must be everybody else's too. So it takes that humility to say, I don't know, but I want to find out. I want to ask.
Mhm.
And I think, I mean, I certainly can't speak for everyone, but I think no, you said, I might have been sick of talking about it. I might not have wanted to explain it to you. I might have said, well, go figure it out for yourself. I mean, true, maybe that would have been the case. But I think in a lot of instances, I imagine it's probably true that someone asks you about something that's important to you. Maybe you don't get talked about a lot. You don't get to talk about a lot. You can't wait to talk about it. You're so happy that
Right.
somebody asked you. I mean, I was, and that's not my life anymore. I'm not a breastfeeding mom anymore. I don't pump anymore. It's been a few years since that was my journey. But still, I was very happy to talk about it. And I think a lot of individuals may be very happy. Maybe they don't want to feel like they have to educate you or give you a whole lecture on it, but they're happy that someone is asking what they might need, um, and being able to share that. Have you had other experiences like that where you've been able to reach out to individuals or groups and ask what they need and or ask how you
I
could
have
help, and what's that been like?
So I actually, I'll share a story that happened to me. So I am a plus size woman, and I was at a conference. I think it was about a year ago, and the conference that I was at, all of the classes were upstairs, but the escalator was broke. The escalator going up worked, but the one going down did not work. And it was like this. It felt like a 90-degree like walk down this escalator. Like when you look down, like it felt like, I don't know, it did something to like your sight and everything. And people were just like, whoa, like I was just waiting for somebody to fall. Anyway, so I had discovered that there was a
Elevator?
oh my gosh, elevator. Thank you. An elevator, and anyway, I was going up and down through this elevator, and I had someone come up and reach out to me and was like, "Can I ask you a question?" And they seemed very nervous, and they were like, um, "Do you know if there's an elevator around here?" And she's like, "I just noticed, that you may have a little bit of mobility issues, and I'm looking for a place where I can go downstairs instead of walking down the escalator." And she seemed so scared to like ask me this question, and I was actually like, happy that she did because I was able to help her. I was like, "Oh, yeah, I found this elevator, like, down the hallway, around the corner, tell your friends," kinda thing. So, but, it just, it 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 was very, I don't know, if it was very humbling and eye-opening to me that I was like, "Oh, why was she nervous to ask me that?" And then I kind of realized that, like, that's sometimes how I feel as well. So it's okay to you like I said, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But then it kind of opened my eyes to another aspect of DEIB that we don't think about, whenever we're in situations like that or when we have, clients that might be a plus size person, that there are certain accommodations that we can make to help make things better for them because sometimes it is uncomfortable walking in somewhere and you're like, oh, those chairs are really tiny and I'm not going to be able to fit my booty in there or whatever. Or or if you have a space and you notice that somebody is having mobility challenges, that you may have a special place for those people to sit. Or I went into a practice a few years ago that didn't have any chairs in the lobby. They only had high top tables. So
That's
if
odd.
you're so yeah, so I think the whole idea is to like get you into a room right away. But if if you have someone who may not be able to stand, these are things we need to think about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's certainly one that's very applicable to veterinary practice that I wouldn't have thought about. And that really kind of leads me so nicely into the next question I wanted to ask you about, which is about your time in clinical practice. Because I know that you have been in clinical practice. I don't know any of the details, so I'm sure most of the rest of the people listening don't as well. So can you talk about what your time was like in clinical practice, what roles you're in, and kind of like how long you were there and all that good stuff?
I like to say that my career in vet med started when I was like 5 years old. I grew up on a farm in Texas, and, I would my grandfather would take me out to doctor all of the eyes on the Hereford cattle that had pink eye or, help clean wounds and things like that, so that I have always been surrounded by animals. And so I have to, all the success of my career started, I would say, at like age 5. But actually working in practice, I have worked in practice for over 30 years. I started out working in a mixed practice in my hometown after college. And then from there, I went to a 7 doctor practice at an AAHA accredited hospital in Austin, Texas. And that was a big change going from working with 2 doctors in a mixed practice to 7 doctors. Um, and this was a very well run practice, AHA accredited, my first exposure to AHA. And from there, I went on to, um, I started out as a veterinary assistant and worked my way up into being the technical coordinator, where I trained all of our technicians and assistants. And that was my first taste of management. And then I started moving into a practice management role and was a hospital director for a corporation. And I also did some consulting on the side, and I helped a friend in Austin open a practice from the ground up, which was what a great experience. I was like, "Wait, I get to create an inventory system from the ground up? I don't have to fix someone else's mess?" I was like, "This is amazing." So, and then from there, I was the director of credentialing for the Texas Veterinary Medical Association. And I ran a credentialing program and also created CE opportunities for our paraprofessionals. And also, at that time, there was another program within TVMA called the Texas Academy of Veterinary Professionals. And this was a specific association designed for those veterinarians who love CE. And so to be a part of this group, you had to get 50 hours of continuing education every year or more. And that was pretty awesome. So I got to put on some creative CE events and things like that for them. And I got to travel quite a bit around Texas. But one of the things I loved about the credentialing program was I also got to go to a bunch of high schools and relive my old days in FFA, talk to a bunch of like ag students and get them excited about veterinary medicine. So that was really fun.
AHACon 2025 is more than just continuing education. It's your chance to take your career to the next level. Earn race approved CE credits, engage with industry leading experts, and gain fresh perspectives to bring back to your practice. Hear from powerhouse speakers, plus enjoy unique experiences like live pet portraits, charm bracelets, professional headshots, resume reviews, and much more. September 11th through 13th in downtown Chicago on the Magnificent Mile. Don't miss this transformative event. Learn more at c.aha.org. That's the letter c.aha.org.
Wow, you've held so many different roles throughout, and if you've run like the whole yeah, I had no idea. That's so impressive.
I've even worked in specialty for a little while. I took a break from practice management and decided to work in specialty, and I was the patient care, which I really loved. So I got to like hang out with, dogs doing rehab and things like that. So that was really fun.
What other examples can you think of, or where did you see opportunities for DEIB to sort of be enhanced is the right word, to be sort of implemented more in clinical practice or any of the other roles that you've worked in supporting clinical practice?
So, as someone who actually worked in practice since I was 18, and then I'm not working in practice right now, I definitely see things very differently as a pet owner. So, with that, I think, taking your pet to the vet can not only be stressful, but it's also scary, even for me. Your pet is stressed. I'm stressed. What is this going to cost me? Is my pet okay? Is the doctor and staff going to judge me because my pet is dirty, overweight, has bad breath? Are they going to think I'm a bad pet owner if I can't afford to pay, for XYZ? Um, so these are all things that I feel like when I was in practice, I didn't really think about until now. And I have a dear friend who had he was the gold star pet owner. Like anything his pet needed, he'd buy for this cat. And she got really sick and was in kidney failure. And it was time for her to cross the rainbow bridge that he had determined. And so it was a very difficult situation. And I remember him calling me and he was asking, for a recommendation for a veterinarian to go to. And I was like, this place is amazing, blah, blah, blah. And he was really, not only he was sad because of the situation, he was also really stressed out. And then to top it off, he was concerned that he couldn't take his husband with him because he was afraid that him and his husband would be judged and that his cat wouldn't receive the same quality of care that another patient would because him and his husband were gay. And this just broke my heart. And it was really it was another eye-opening moment because I'm sure there are other people who feel this way. And it's so important for us to pay attention to these types of stories and ask ourselves, how can we create a better experience for our clients? How can we create a safe and a brave space for them to feel comfortable in? The vet hospital shouldn't be a scary place. Like that should have been the last thing on his mind. It's like, I'm grabbing my husband, we're gonna take the cat, that should have been an added stress. So this is one of those things that whenever, we're not going to be perfect. We're not going to have all of the answers to DEIB. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to say the wrong thing. And that's okay. But once you figure out or find out that you made a mistake, work really hard to not do it again. But also when you hear these stories, this should be something where you try to make things better. And then you also use this experience to think about other things outside the box again. Like, are there other individuals or other people who have experiences like this that we need to start thinking about? And actually, come together with your team. They're going to be able to help with this. And then as far as like our team members, as leaders, it's so important to remember that our team members are people too. That safe and brave space that I just mentioned is so important for them. We need to have grace and compassion for each other. If that is one of the things I feel like we need to remember. Creating an inclusive team where everyone feels like they have a seat at the table are the ingredients for a thriving culture. And this is going to spill out into not only how they treat each other, but it's also going to spill out into your clients.
That's so beautiful. And I was thinking while you were talking, as you said, none of us are going to maybe be prepared for every situation or every variable or be able to anticipate every sort of need or specific circumstance that someone might come into the workplace with or come in, as a pet owner with. But if we have that mindset of compassion and openness and being non-judgmental and being able to really listen and hear what the other person has to say and not be dismissive of it. It sets us up for us to be able to learn from that, even if it was something that was not on our radar at all.
I know that everybody is busy and vet med can be crazy, crazy busy. And as a practice manager, sometimes you may have a team member come up and be like, I really, I didn't like it when you said that, or this hurt me in this way. And I think something we don't realize is a lot of times it takes a lot for somebody to tell you that. I always use the example of, okay, we're going to talk about pizza.
You can't get away from pizza and vet med.
The dreaded word, the pizza. So, it's really hard whenever you have like a lunch or a dinner for your staff. And then, sometimes it can be challenging to like order because you're like, okay, this person's gluten free. This person's vegetarian. This person's vegan. This one's vegan and gluten free. So, and I've been in places where people make light of that and they joke around. They're just like, can't we just order pizza? That person who is gluten-free or vegan, they don't like telling you that, this is really hard for them. So these are the types of little things that we can change how we react to, and make those are little things that will make somebody feel more inclusive and feel more uncomfortable, and it's something you don't think about. Did you think that, like, gluten-free or vegan would be part of DEIB?
No, but that's a good point. And I can remember when I was in clinical practice, there was a team member who didn't necessarily have an allergy. She didn't have like celiac disease or anything like that, but she was very, I don't know if I should say very, but she was health conscious to the point where she didn't want to eat pizza. Like that was just, and she didn't ever complain about it. She would just bring her own food, if she knew that that's what was going to be happening, because she would prefer to eat a salad or some roasted vegetables or something from home, and that was just how she preferred to eat. And it's true that some people would kind of look at her and be like, "Oh, look at that person with their salad again." And um but there were at least a couple of times where when the pizza was ordered, whoever made the order decided to order this like gourmet like grilled chicken salad with all these fresh vegetables on it. And you know what? She was so happy with that. She was so happy to be able to partake in that. And again, she wasn't demanding about it. She would have been fine if it hadn't happened, but she was so happy to be thought of and included. And then we had another individual who, again, didn't have a specific allergy, but did not eat anything gluten based. And we used to give everyone a cake for their birthday, but that wasn't an option for this individual. So we would get him a fruit platter, and he loved it. He loved it. It's
And
just so nice. I
the
mean,
key word that you said there was included.
yeah.
Like, that one simple thing, like ordering a salad or a fruit plate made them feel included, like they belonged there. They belonged there like everybody else did.
Yeah. So I think that just kind of points out how much we are already doing DEIB and probably don't even realize it. Not to say that we couldn't do more of it and learn about additional ways, but I think it always helps, particularly when we're talking about a topic where it can feel so overwhelming and it's easy to kind of get down on ourselves and say how, I'm not doing enough. How am I going to do this? How am I going to make it work? How am I going to add something else on top of all my other responsibilities to say, oh, look at all these things I'm already doing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, one of the big things that we can do, and it's a simple step, is just listen. Just listen and observe. What are people telling us, what seems to be bothering them, or how, and those simple things can help us make people feel included.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking for the latest veterinary news? Stay ahead of the curve with stories from the American Animal Hospital Association's digital, award winning newsroom, Trends. We're bringing you fresh stories every day, covering everything from the cutting edge clinical insights to helpful practice management tips. And it's not just articles. Watch videos, check out interactive charts, and learn more about the people shaping our industry. As an AHA member, you also unlock exclusive members only content, designed to help you and your team thrive. Visit aha.org/trends today and sign up for Trendsetter, our newsletter where all of our stories are delivered to your inbox twice a week.
So I wanted to move now to talking about AAHA because obviously we both work for AAHA. Um, and we are not doing any clinical work here. We're obviously supporting the veterinary medicine, small animal veterinary medicine in a variety of different ways. And we have our workforce is diverse in certain ways. A lot of us come from veterinary backgrounds, but certainly not all of us do. We have a lot of colleagues who come from completely unrelated backgrounds in terms of their training and previous experience, marketing, graphic design, accounting, um, education, learning, editing, that kind of thing. We're all spread all throughout the country. We're all remote. So we're in different time zones. Some of us have to travel a lot for work. Some of us have to physically go places to do work. Others, um, the rest of us are just kind of in our home offices, on the computer all day long. We're diverse in terms of age range, experience level, all those kinds of things. So and importantly, we have a DEIB committee, which I'll let you talk about, because I don't think I will do it justice. Um, but maybe tell us a little bit about that committee and why it's important that we have it.
Yeah, so this committee is fairly new. We started in 2020, and the idea for this committee came up. We had a gentleman that was very brave, and we were having an in-person staff meeting at the time. This was before we were all remote, thanks to the pandemic. And he mentioned to our president at the time that we needed more diversity at AHA. Our executive team had put together our DEIB committee. And the very first meeting, I think we had the whole association was on that call. And
Everybody wanted to be a
it
part of
felt like
DEIB.
everybody wanted to be a part of DEIB.
Wow.
And it was the first couple of calls were just like everybody had information that they wanted to share. Like, because we were in the middle of a pandemic, all this had happened with George Floyd, and everybody just was like, like I said, emotions were high. People were using this more as like a place to um, vent and share. And then the committee started like dissolving a little bit. People were, I said what I had to say, and now I'm not going to this meeting anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's
So
kind of a mess.
it was we were all new to this. And I remember during that time, I was working with Dr. Mia Carey and Dr. Jason Coe on a workshop. And this was a workshop that was meant to be in person. And we were like putting it online, because we couldn't be in person. And um, Dr. Mia Carey was talking about, using proper pronouns, and I was like learning like all this information from her, and I was just like, oh wow. And she recommended that I speak with Dr. Kimbra Marshall. And I talked with Dr. Marshall, and I told her about how we were putting together we have a DEIB committee, and we're working on, educating each other. And one of the eye-opening things that she said to me was like, what action steps are you doing? Like, what are you physically putting in place? And that just resonated with me. And so then we started coming together as a committee and actually setting goals and trying to decide like, what is it, who are we, and what do we want to do? And so we are very fortunate that, we have a CEO, Garth, that supports this journey for us. And also our executive sponsor, our CFO, James Hurd, he is very supportive. And we've been able to put together a team charter. We actually have goals put in place. And we started doing, I want to call them baby steps. Like we are a small but mighty team that has, we had a gender neutral bathroom at our conference. And now this is something that we have at every conference. The committee came together and decided that we wanted to have the opportunity for our not only our staff, but also our guests at our conferences to share their pronouns. So that is also a part of any of our check-in regimen. The nursing mother room. So we are making strides as we are learning. So I feel like our team, we are small, but everybody on that team is on a journey and is trying to learn and do the best that we can. And we're learning to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
For sure. Yeah, I will just share that I'm a member of that committee, a very new member of the committee, so I'm still learning as well. But I love what you said about, we're still learning, we're still educating ourselves, we're still educating each other, and I'm definitely seeing that happen. And it's not in the sense of, I'm making up a random example of like, I'm a nursing mother, so here's me trying to convince the rest of you why you should care. It is um, all of us doing the work to educate ourselves, whether it's something we have specific experience with or not. Would you say that's fair?
I would say that's fair. I mean, I'm trying to think, it's really rare that someone has, and we have an open door policy that someone has come up to us and said, hey, we need to not do this, or we need to do that. This has all been stuff that the committee has brainstormed together and, said, hey, what about this? And then we do our research and some and educate ourselves and figure out a way to make things better. And, we are now making strides. They're small strides, but they have a big impact. And, um, we not only are doing this internally for our team, but also externally. Like one of the you are on our content team, and we also have someone from our marketing team. So anything that we come up with, we're like, oh, we need to share this information with our members. And because we not only want to create a safe slash brave space for our team, but also for our members and non-members. Anyone who wants to have anything to do with AHA, you're welcome here.
Yeah, I think that's so important because I mean, I certainly don't pretend to know what AHA means to everyone, but I think the organization does mean a great deal to so many different people in the industry, and they look to AHA, I don't want to say us, but AHA as a whole to be a leader on so many different fronts. Obviously, things like vaccine guidelines come to mind very quickly because that's a reference that a lot of um, that is considered in many instances to be kind of the standard that many practices and veterinarians follow when recommending um, vaccines for dogs and cats. But in so many different aspects, I think AHA is sort of expected to be a leader and and model or lead by example in terms of the ways that we conduct ourselves, treat our own, and sort of project ourselves out into the world.
I agree. And those of us who, worked in practice for a long time and now work at AHA, like this is our way to give back to our profession that we love and care about so much. I mean, we have access to so much information by, we have practice consultants and people who work all over the world now
Yeah.
and also, share and people who share ideas and things that they see within practice and stuff that they see going on, we're able to take that information and then absorb it and decode it and, do whatever with it and then share that with our community, which is pretty special. And it's one of the reasons I love working here so much.
Wow. Very glad that you are here and that you're leading this DEIB committee, because I agree. I think it's so important. Are there any like goals or objectives that the committee has right now or that you have heard discussed that you'd like to talk about or share?
Yeah, so one of our really big goals right now is we are looking at forming groups within AHA where people feel comfortable sharing information or struggles or whatever it is that we can that'll help us do better, I would say. And we haven't, finalized the name for these groups yet, but so we're kind of an example, like maybe a group for our LGBTQ plus community, a group for our Black community within AHA, a group for our Latinx community, a group for nursing mothers or for mothers, Um, also, we want to help create not only a safe space for them or a space where they can collaborate together, but also a space where they can work together and feel comfortable sharing what they've collaborated on with the us as a whole, not only the DEIB committee, but also at AHA. Like maybe they want to tell us, something new that's coming up or a challenge that they're having, or like I said, something that we can do to make their environment seem more inclusive and, diverse here at AHA.
So kind of bring people with similar interests and needs. I don't know if interest is the right word. Needs, life circumstances, that kind of thing together, not to silo themselves or isolate themselves, but to have kind of the strength in numbers and the moral support to kind of talk about their needs and then be able to kind of bring it back to the rest of the committee or
Yes,
HR or the CEO or
absolutely.
whoever needs to know about it, the whole organization if it's something that everybody needs to know about so that we can all find ways to support each other. Would you say that's fair?
Absolutely. And we are also working on, we're always trying to make sure that we're using inclusive language, and that we are we're constantly educating ourselves and, just us as a committee as well. And we're looking for more opportunities to create um, programs that will help our members and non-members and our team members educate themselves as well.
And has the DEIB committee been involved at all in any of the sort of outreach efforts that are not specifically run by AHA, but that AHA sort of aligns with or supports?
We have done stuff with Dr. Nicole Bruno and the Blend pathway events. I believe we've done 4 of those now, which are extremely popular, where kids get to be a veterinarian for a day. And that is one of the main ones that we have done.
And those are often run concurrently at AHACon, at other places too, but it's mainly the ones that are
Yes,
AHACon that we have the biggest role in. Is that right?
that is true. We've had them at Connexity and we've done them at AhaCon. These actual events are getting really popular. Where I'm starting to see that practices are doing them on their own, and this is something you definitely can do in your community. If you have some old surgical gowns lying around, that aren't dirty, but, and gloves and like old suture materials and stuff that's expired, you could definitely create a pathway event at a high school or an elementary school. Kids just love them. We've even been told that like the kids don't want to take their surgery gowns off, like they're going home in them.
I can imagine. I
It's
don't
fun-
think I'd want to take it
it's
off as a
wonderful.
kid either.
I
So
know. I never
fun.
had.
I know. I
I
love
would have
seeing
been
the
like,
pictures of all the kids with like their caps and their gowns and their masks and their gloves on. They just look so happy.
and they're like suturing like little rubber suture things and learning how to do CPR.
Yeah, that's a great segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about was just what other ideas in terms of things that you see happening with the DEIB committee at AHA, um, or, blend vet, you gave us a great example. Like, what other things are transferable to clinical practice?
So, like I said, you can definitely get involved in your community. There's lots of um, you know, contact your local schools. They always love it when a veterinarian comes in for the day. Usually, if you take a dog, I will warn you, if you take a dog to like an elementary school, all the questions are going to be like about that
Of
dog,
course. Of course.
or it'll
Much
be
more
like,
interesting than the person.
my grandma has a dog, kind of thing. Um, but but those are always fun. Also, I would say, mainly doing education, but the the simplest thing that you could do to start like DEIB efforts within your practice would be talk to your team. Get their feedback, and get them involved, because once your team is involved, they're going to be more invested. And you may have some people within your team who want to help lead this journey and help do some research and, help create some of these programs. You may have a rock star party planner in the mix to help do that. But I that would be my first step, would be to talk with your team, get a feel for, are there any accommodations, or how are they feeling? Do they feel included? Do they feel like um uh, you have a safe space and a brave space where they can, be be heard? I mean, in a perfect world, wouldn't it be great if, like, that kennel assistant, that their voice had as much power as your chief of staff, and they felt that, which would be pretty amazing. So, that's one of the things I would recommend first, is talk with your team. Also, there's lots of groups out there. There's a Pride Veterinary, VMC, Pride VMC, Pride Veterinary Medical community. There's also Black DVM Network, Multicultural Veterinary Medical Association. There is the Latinx Medical Association. There's the Asian Pacific Veterinary Medical Association. Like, there's tons of resources out there from them. There's also a group called Pauseabilities. It's kind of hard to say. And they are always looking for mentors. If you are interested in mentoring someone or even being mentored, you can check out their website.
Awesome. You answered my last question for me, so
Oh,
I don't even have to ask it.
sorry. Uh, and more are definitely popping up, but definitely get involved in your community, the schools around, and also at your local conferences. Those are the best ways to get started.
Judy Rose, thank you so much. I've really appreciated
Oh, thank you.
talking with you and learning from you and just being inspired by you. So thank you so much
Uh,
for coming
Thank you
on.
for having me.
I just
This was so
I just
fun.
want to ask you one last question. I'm trying to
Yeah.
start this, and who knows, maybe the question will change a little bit, but here's what I'm going to start with. Like, what's something that you are excited about in veterinary medicine?
I would have to say AI. Like, yes, and I'm not like a super techie person, but the advances that, I'm hearing about regarding like AI and the things that I'm learning, like, oh my gosh, like this is going to make vet med so much easier. It's all those little things that just take time, are going to AI is going to take care of it for us, so you can concentrate on being either a technician or a veterinarian and doing the things that you love.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm sure at some point we'll have a discussion about AI on this podcast. So I'll look forward to that. But thank you so much.